Aloha, this is Airielle, and I'm so happy to be here today with you, bringing to you another wonderful program from Mama Presents. Maui Arts and Music Association is so happy to bring to you today the president of our electric company. It's wonderful to see such an incredible man with an open mind and an open heart serving our community. And Jason's here to interview him and give you all the great pleasure of that insight for yourselves. Have a great time.
Thank you, Airielle.
Thank you, Airielle, for the
You're
kind words.
very welcome. It's my great pleasure.
Sure.
I'm very happy to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave you and let you have a little intimate conversation.
Thank you. Well, let me do the honors. Airielle, this is Tom Jezierney. Tom
Airielle,
Jezierney,
a
president
pleasure.
of our electric company.
Aloha, Tom. I'm so honored that you've joined us here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Airielle. I'm happy to join you. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Yep.
thank you for your gifts that you bring to our community.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy yourself.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you for being here with us.
Sure, Jason.
I just kind of got settled in here a little bit.
Mhm.
Where are we? Today is somewhere at the end of May in 1995.
Mhm.
We're sitting here at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center out in the courtyard.
Mhm.
Thank you, Cultural Center, for letting us use this location. I just came from talking to the Rotary Club in Sprecklesville, which is quite a nice experience. In fact, we'll have it on another show. We had the privilege to be able to videotape that performance, if you will. Today, I'm really happy to be here with you. I've known you since, I guess, sometime in 1990
Mhm.
when I went to Maui Electric Company as a civilian, if you will. I wasn't into politics. I wasn't into Maui Arts and Music Association. I came with knowledge and ideas about renewable energy, that I wanted to talk about a product that was going to be created, and it could create electricity and hot water and other applications. And I got to meet the engineering department, and I got to meet you, and there was conversation, but really not much more, because solar still didn't make economic sense, and we were in no crisis then, really, here. And things were moving on. Then a couple of years later, and I've met you numbers of times, you know, and your involvement with the center, by example, and other things in the arts and music. So we've been around and meeting. And then the PUC made an advisory board thing where they needed to have people come out from the community and get involved in planning the energy future of our island. And I went down and I volunteered, if you will, and I found that a very enriching experience. And it's through that process that I've really gotten to understand you and the electric company and what it really will take, at least in my mind, to get renewable energy on this island to really happen. You know, we all say, what a great place to do wind power. Look at us here today. And solar power and all kinds of things. But I got to understand, and I don't want to be talking. I'll let you talk some. Why don't we begin? The utility company provides power to us. Now, this expansion in Malaya, why couldn't it be solar right now? I mean, you talk about having power all the time. Can you explain that?
Well, if we're talking solar as an option to fossil fuel and the combustion turbines that we plan on installing, it really comes down to the basic criteria of least cost, to what is commercially available, what is least cost firm power that we can dispatch to our customers. Now, very specifically, solar is more expensive than fuel oil as far as cents per kilowatt hour.
Right.
And unfortunately, it is not dispatchable. If the sun is not shining, then the solar is not necessarily going to generate. And at night, then we would not have any solar power.
So that firm power idea, the fact that your customers want to make sure that there's plenty of power when they want it. Just like
Exactly.
here with the expansion of the power plant, it wasn't an issue of you saying we want to expand this because we are getting bigger, and you're saying we want to be able to provide power because we think that the people of the island will need it.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Now, if I remember from the IRP, the Integrated Resource Planning process, The Public Utilities Commission has really asked you, or maybe demanded you, to come up with a demand-side management program.
Correct.
Now, demand-side management, can you quickly explain what that means?
Well, demand side and supply side are the two areas of IRP. Demand side is what happens on the customer side of the electric meter, what can be done basically in conservation, in energy efficiency. Supply side usually means what is provided in the terms of power from the utility or from other generators. So that usually has to do with the generation of electricity, whether it's from fossil fuel, conventional, renewable energy. That's on the supply
So
side.
you're a supply-sider, and I, as customer, am a demand-sider, if you will.
We like to-
Demand-side management means that I, the customer, have an opportunity, but the the PUC asks you, if I understand, to put a program in place to offer programs and give incentives so people will wrap their water heaters, put on solar water heating systems,
Right.
commercial lighting so that they'll lower their utility usage. But those are demanded by PUC, right?
Well, the programs are the initial charge to do this was a requirement of the PUC,
Right.
requirement of the integrated resource planning. It was then up to the utility to present the programs, to do a
Right.
study to say these are the most cost-effective programs.
My point I'm making is, I think it's sort of funny that we need to have someone say, you must create a program to save. Again, here we are on an island, and we are farther from any other mainland source. We have fuel coming here to fuel our power. So if we could find ways of doing it from here and to cut our usage, you'd think that people would do it by themselves. I mean, so far, that's what's interesting. The Public Utilities Commission said to you, hey, it's time. We want you to put together a program to show people how to save money. You may remember, because you're from
Sure.
the mainland also, that's old hat on the mainland. Why we haven't done that here way before? It just seems to be, some people say there may be a complacency. I was talking earlier today to the Rotary. It's that we still don't recognize that the world is going to heck, as we say, because we're in such a beautiful place. Look where we are here. What do they say? It's only after it's too late, and it bites you. That's, to me, too late to wake up, you know? So, but the demand-side management program, you told me that, excuse me, I'm talking this way, but I'm talking to you also. The program is something you can't rely on. For example, tell me when we were talking about that, when I said, you know, we hear critics say that the expansion of the plant isn't necessary because there's this demand-side management conservation effort going. Can you explain about that?
Well, we're submitting 4 different programs to the PUC, and the programs are planned to decrease the load growth by a certain amount, certain megawatts, or a certain percentage. But there are so many uncertainties with DSM, specifically how much penetration they may receive. That's a fancy word for what is the customer interest? What is the customer interest in participating in these demand-side management programs? If the customer interest isn't there, or the kilowatt hours, the energy savings are not there, then the load will not be decreased as desired. Okay. Balance that with a power plant, which once built and once is operating is a known resource, has a high degree of certainty.
Right, okay. So, to me, that says, you know, you're either going to go fuel oil, and you have to go conventional things that are proven 24 hours, or you get these demand-side management programs in place, and that's a good start. But I think probably we can agree it just begins to touch the surface of what people could do if they made a conscious decision in the, excuse me, I like to call it the private sector. You're a business. But I'm an individual. If I were to own a home and decide, I want to put solar water heating on my house because it makes sense. You see the tax credits, you see the long advantage that it would pay for itself.
Sure.
You don't need an incentive from the electric company to do it. Yeah, and that brings me back to a point I think that you know I've been talking a long time. There's a product or products that I know that have been tested on the mainland. I don't want to get into it now. I don't want to get into a situation of endorsement. I'll talk about it in a later part of the segment. But let's say there's a product that's tried and true in the mainland. We know it works, but it's too expensive per unit. Like when you talk about solar and wind, It's too expensive. You want to go out and buy something for $20,000, $25,000 to replace something you just plug into your wall to get, and you use fuel. There's no comparison. For you on the supply side, there's no comparison between these expensive systems and your present sources of fuel. But as individuals, if I know the way business works, if I have one chair and it's the only one around, or 10 of them, they're $10. If suddenly someone orders 1,000 of them, and they say, I'll only give you 6, 6 works. And if they want 5,000 of them, and they want $4, suddenly you can bring the price down. We live in a place, you can help me on this, our utility rates here. Some say are modest, some say they're high, some say they're low. The ones that say they're low, they're not reading their bill. I'm sure that all of us realize that the cost of utility is a rising thing. It may be that, you know, oil is our barometer for how much fuel costs, but that's only because we haven't looked at other technologies where, after the equipment is paid for, we eliminate the cost of the fuel. We just have the equipment and its maintenance. And if it's good equipment, we've suddenly eliminated one of the factors, cost of the fuel, okay? And here on an island with wind and with sun, those things are great, but they're not economically sensible one by one. I think that's why I'm really saying to you, oh, in your experience, have you, I know the answer to this, I think that's why I asked these questions. We talked about a demonstration project for different technologies. Now I know down in Kihei, you have some kind of demonstration of renewable technology, don't you?
We have a photovoltaic demonstration unit in Kihei on Lapoa Place. Actually, it's Mauka of the R&T Center.
I see.
It's been there since about 1988 and collecting data on the efficiency and the effectiveness of this type of PV, photovoltaic technology.
Okay. So photovoltaic, I'm going to now give you an example. That photovoltaic is a fixed thing, right? It doesn't track with the sun?
It doesn't track with, no, this one is, that's right, it's stationary.
Right.
It's on an angle for maximum exposure to the sun, but no, it doesn't track the sun in its orbit.
And when you got originally involved in the program, it was with Pacific Gas and Electric, Department of Energy, Maui Electric, all in a joint venture called PV USA, right? I should let you explain it, although I'm...
No, you're doing well.
PV USA, which is photovoltaic for utility scale applications,
Correct.
Meaning to be able to use them in large scale to help utilities change their fuel supply.
Right.
They found that the system that we're testing in Kihei is one of the lower performers, if you will, of the number of systems they checked. And some of the other systems have a higher rating. But again, here in Maui, people they care very little about what happens somewhere else. They want to know it works here. There may or may not, you can tell me, I hope you're budgeting in and thinking of demonstration projects for technologies like these to show people here they work. Again, that's what Mama's trying to do, through the promotion of art, music, and culture, to be able to raise money and awareness that these possibilities exist. Be able to then show a demonstration that it works, and subscribe both homeowners and small businesses to say, yes, if these systems were affordable, I would want one. Now, then we could predict the amount of savings, and again, whether it's directly approaching your peak or not. We're now talking about something that the public would be doing, and we know they'd want to use it. They put their money into it.
If they wanted to use it.
They weren't given an opportunity, and someone like the PUC is saying, and the utility company, and very well, thank you, you know, we'll give you these incentives, but they're saying, we see value, so we know that it probably would be used, which means it could be something you could comfortably predict.
If the cost drops. Now, when we talk about PV, if we think about photovoltaic, the installation of a photovoltaic system for a house to allow it to disconnect from the MECO grid is somewhere in excess of $20,000 to $25,000.
When you say disconnect from the MECO grid, what do you mean?
I mean that they wouldn't need to be fed by us. That the
We want you there as well, see?
Then it would be even more costly.
Well, let's talk about that in a second, okay? Right now, The larger systems I was talking about, like a 10 megawatt system where above Puamana and Lahaina, we have modules and we put an additional line into the hotels. The land is owned by AmFac, the poles are owned by you and AmFac. Some kind of partnership would have modules powering. You would still be there supplying power, okay? Now an individual thing, why is it expensive individually, $25,000 or more?
Well, talking two different things. The $25,000, it would be a per residence cost for PV standalone system. What you're describing, a 10 megawatt system, would be much larger, maybe to feed a hotel or a subdivision.
No, what I'm saying is it because, what if you had 5,000 people saying, we're going to go and we want this kind of service? Could your cost be lower based on product? Is it product or service that's costing that much to make that transition?
The $25,000 that I mentioned, that's not a utility cost. That's a cost that would be borne by a resident if he installed it. And this would have to be installed probably by a contractor.
When you say $25,000 for what? For the whole system?
For PV cells up on top, for a battery.
Now that's my point. See, that's my point. So that's my point, guys. If enough people say, yes, we would like to do this, a large enough purchase can be made where the costs come down significantly. When I talk about, again, I'm not talking about what, but solar concentrators, and the ones I'm talking about, dramatically can lower the cost per unit in scale.
Okay.
That's what I'm really saying. So that it wouldn't be $25,000 to get off the grid or to have you there. It might be $8,000 or $9,000. If we order 5,000 of these, that it will cost $8,000 or $9,000 a family based on the utility rate. It'll pay back in this kind of amount of time. Then I would think to go to maybe a sister company like American Savings Bank or anyone. If you have $5,000, $9,000 deals, you suddenly have something meaningful, which is kind of an interesting twist to have a way of strengthening. See, as I look at it, strengthening your utility company by not asking you to expand your power plants because we, the people, are putting in systems.
If the will of the people were to spend much more money than they are right now for electric rates to bring in PV or wind or other renewable energy, that could happen.
But you're talking as a utility company, and I'm saying if they were willing to spend the rate, then it would be part of the electric company plan. But if as citizens they decide to do it, then the rates don't have to go up on electric.
That's right. If a person or persons wanted to install the systems on their own, then yes, that wouldn't affect our rates.
And that's my real point. That's, I think, the most important thing I really want to be able to communicate, that if people want to install them on their own, the utility rates don't have to go up just because we're going to do solar.
Sure.
And it would allow you to not have to build power plants, which might mean, hey, the electric company would function fine not having to expand, I bet, and give you more chance to explore other things.
My question would be, for people who already are served by us, what incentive is there? What economic incentive might be there for them to go back and retrofit their houses with PV and batteries to the tune of $20,000 or $25,000?
Well, again, you're talking $20,000, $25,000, and I say, yeah, what incentive? I wouldn't do it. If I don't have a home now, but if I did, I wouldn't spend $25,000 if I didn't have it now.
Okay.
But if I could bring it down to $9,000 for an installed system, and see a payback in 5 years, which is realistic and reasonable. I mean, again, we can project utility rates. I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm sure you don't either. But people also have to look at other factors. Their willingness to get involved and help make a difference. I was talking to the Rotary Group about that same thing. They're our leaders. If we all say that we can make this world a better place, it means taking a step ourselves. So the step that you took of coming down here, I guess you'd say, is very significant to me, and I hope to the people of Maui to understand that if we can bring that's the whole point, if we can bring the cost of the solar down, that we, the people, can do solar and wind, and then the utility company can provide service comfortably and is very supportive. I would say that you're very supportive of renewable energy, and if there was a way it would be cost effective, and makes sense, you'd be doing it.
Absolutely.
Is that right? You know, I supported your expansion of the power plant, and then I was there through the whole process. I remember a letter that came in one of our local papers, South Maui Times. It was headlined, "Schwartz says power plant expansion okayed." And I remember reading the letter and thinking, and I wrote it, they could have headlined it, "Schwartz says solar would be great," but they didn't.
Right.
I hope that this show will encourage people to take a look at this possibility and opportunity, and also to better understand your company and you. You know, I know recently in the press, with all the screaming and squawking from different groups, sure, they all feel and care for the fact that we want to preserve our environment. You know, the Kalia Pond and all the natural resources. I know you personally, and I know that you're as interested in saving the environment there as I am, as probably anyone on Maui. And I think it's important that people get to see you in a different role. Any other things that I'm kind of not letting you say because I'm rambling too much here? Any thoughts?
Well, I think we talk about if this happens and if that happens, and we're talking theoretical.
Yeah, we are.
That the cost will drop down. My experience is that for residential houses, costs are way up there, and large volume won't necessarily bring those costs down.
If a different profit scale be built in, well, with the scale of number of systems, I mean, I'm talking, again, I'm trying not to bring up the specific product. The highest rated system that I've seen in this country, in this other system, is ready to make a major opportunity for a large-scale application because they know they need a demonstration. When we talk about PV USA, that's photovoltaics for utility-scale application. The largest application in this country, in Daggett, California, these mirrors shining on a tower. That's lovely, it's centralized. What about something that could work centralized or decentralized? Something like linear Fresnel lenses concentrating where you can have some in a home or in a new community, plan them down a parking stretch. There's so many ways to go. New developers and homeowners that are retrofit all have to look at this. You know, I was recently reading, I'm sure you saw, Maui Tomorrow did a build-out scenario of, based on the present zoning, how many people can live or will be in these different communities. So suddenly Kihei from 15,000 turns to 200,000. So with the, never mind if that scenario happens, in the short term, there's a lot of new building going on, and a lot of things could be planned in by the private sector. And it could be that the one I'm talking to is C. Brewer or Jim Schuler or whoever building houses en masse that would say, you know, yeah, we can get the tax credits, put them in our pocket as commercial tax credits, offer homes with renewable power. What a great marketing incentive. And that's why I think I'm bringing it up. To me, people need to know that the electric company is not our enemy. And the electric company is not an enemy to renewable energy.
True.
You know, and I think that maybe through this process, people will begin to look more seriously at what I've been saying. You're right, if the price could come down. Let's see if that can happen. See, I expect to get commitments without any dollars, because when we have enough commitments from responsible, bona fide people, that speaks for dollars. We'll find the financing. But if we don't have a dream and a vision, and that's what we're doing, we're building dreams. We're letting people know that there really is no difference in separation between us and you. There is no us and you. And I love doing this show with Airielle, because Airielle has a very soft and wonderful and different side, and the kind of things that she shows, she's really, I'm sure you may know her, I've told you some, she's a gifted healer and psychic, and does emotional and spiritual counseling. She works with people to helping their lymphatic systems. She's doing all kinds of things. The people that we're going to be bringing on the show from all walks of life to say, you know, these are things we hold close to our heart. It's nice to know that the president of the electric company, if you will, that there's a heart. Then when we talk about the heart of Maui, I really respect the hard work you've done and the hard position it is to sit under public scrutiny. You know, just because people are environmental doesn't mean they're radical. That doesn't mean I don't agree with if we could have put the power plant somewhere else in expansion. I'm sure you also. We were there and tried. I saw what happened. I know that the electric company did its part to try, and we're going to try more. And we're going to find another expansion place.
Right.
But we, as private sector, can make a major difference in how quickly this rate of expansion happens by getting involved with Mama and what we're doing, and take a look and see if what we says makes sense. And give the electric company a chance also. I think that you'll find in the future that there will be a greater, I've learned so much that the Hawaiian way is really embracing each other. Let's see if we can do that. Instead of being divisive and bickering, why don't we try to cooperate? And why don't we bring aloha and aloha aina into being more. Tom, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jason.
Let me just say, we're going to be putting in a couple of questions here and there, and it may seem a little disjointed on the tape. I don't think I gave Tom Jezierney a chance to talk. I cut him off every which way. So I think it's real important, and Airielle brought it up, that we get to know Tom more personally. You know, if you will, the one thing we were just talking about, if we're trying to talk about what's the barrier to solar and wind, what do you see as the barrier to having solar power or wind power or things here?
Well, I think on Maui, and in Hawaii in general, but in Maui specifically, probably three barriers. And one is that these technologies are not firm power. They have to be backed up with conventional power plants. Or they need some kind of a storage facility, like a large battery, which gets very expensive. So they become, the firm power, or what do we call as available energy, these are more as available energy. When the wind blows, when the sun is shining, you have them. When the wind is not blowing or when the sun is not shining, you don't have them. They need to be backed up. And that cost of backup is the same that you would have incurred had the wind or the solar been installed or not. So what you're really doing is adding additional cost. Okay. On Maui, the issue of land is also difficult, and that wind is comprised of towers with large blades. Landowners are not necessarily enraptured with the thought of providing land that will be tied up for 20 or 25 or 30 years, if it means that they have to lose agricultural or other developmental interest in this land. But I think the major thing is that the economics for both wind and solar, especially solar PV, photovoltaic, is poor right now. It's 2 to 3 times the cost of fossil fuel, which makes it very unattractive, except in specific instances of, say, remote application. Houses way out at the end, houses that are not connected to the grid, where cost of connection would be very high, and maybe PV, photovoltaic, would make sense for them.
I see.
So I would say that the barriers are economic and our land, and are the fact that the type of technology is not firm power. So again, it needs to be backed up with conventional power at present.
You know, when you answer that, I hear it, and I think, again, I don't want to just keep talking about it, but
Sure.
that's my point. The fact that the cost is too high, that the cost of land is too great to give up a chunk for 20 or 30 years to provide power, is the reason that we, the private sector, have to do it. Because you can't, because economics won't let you.
Okay. Now again, photovoltaic needs a lot of room, a lot of space. Wind needs a lot of space. When you talk about the private sector, I think you're talking about landowners, is to develop what kind of incentive would there be for landowners to say, I'm willing to give up acres of space that may not be used for anything in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years.
I see now. I think this is important that we discuss this. I don't want to take up all the time here, but I definitely know that you can have 6 of these specific modules I'm talking about on a home or in a backyard and power for a family of 4. That doesn't take acreage of land from anyone. It takes, in a home, if you have a back bedroom, if you can have 6 of these installed on your roof, or here, where's the problem? Here, you'd need power for sure because of the tremendous energy demand for this location. But if a home could provide, even if it's 30%, 40%, 50%, they could do it without taking additional land. And yeah.
Well, but if such a installation was made on a home, would that allow the home to disconnect from the grid?
Only if they, I mean, most people say, well, I know the sun works, I know the wind works, but I sure am glad I'm plugged into Maui Electric anyway.
Okay. So if
Okay.
if they remain connected to us, then they're also paying for the energy that they consume
And
from
you
us.
call that, what do we call that? That's a some kind of charge.
Well, if you're hooked up to the system, there's always a customer charge, and there's
Just
a
a
minimum
basic-
charge,
Uh-huh.
and then on top of that is an energy charge for how much you actually use.
Right. So,
Mhm.
but remember, I remember when I was selling solar water heating systems in California. We know that there are still bills, and we respect those, but even counting that, we would want this to make economic sense or not ask people to even look at
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Again, I'd like to better understand from you. So it's the land, the economics, for
The cost of the technology is high in itself. Okay, so land, availability of land, the cost of land also, the type of the technology, as available energy versus firm power.
firm power.
Okay, and the third, the fact that the cost of the type of technology is what does not allow for our own conventional generating units to be deferred. Wind is not firm power, so we can't defer adding units at Malaya or elsewhere. Photovoltaic is not firm power as standing alone, and therefore it doesn't allow us to defer our own generating units.
See, but what if now, over the next 5 years, you would? Well,
Okay.
what if let's say in the next 5 years you saw that through implementation of private sector programs that there was less, that people were using the systems? Would that help in it, or
Oh, it would, if people were using systems to decrease their amount of energy that they consume,
well, then you could
it would
say,
impact
look
us
at
impact us very directly. Yes, and we
That's
could
what I'm
defer. We
saying.
could defer generating units.
okay, but up front, I'm sure that there's nothing you can rely on. It has to start and show some kind of progression.
Has to show again, penetration has to show a certain type of decrease in the load, and it has to show some continuity that this decrease will continue, and that it isn't something that just takes place over a few months of the year, because if it only takes place over a few months of the year, the months when the load is not decreased will still have to be served by us
Of
with
course.
conventional generating units.
Well, again, I don't know if I should ask you this. Do you think that there's enough wind and sun on these islands that, in theory, this possibly could work?
In theory, there's plenty of wind.
But again, I'm talking about private sector. I think it sounds funny. I've forgiven the electric company for not doing renewable energy,
Okay.
because that firm power thing sure makes a lot of sense to me. And the economics, well, that's what I'm working on, and talking to these guys out here to let them know that they all can be involved together.
Okay.
And the land, I know a way around that also. It's called the roofs of our structures. I mean, you know, it's funny. I remember going to Australia. People put solar systems on the front of their houses. Here they hide them in the back, over around a tree, and they wonder, why is it not working? It's because they block it so no one sees they've got it. In Australia, they hold them proudly. We should hold them proudly. Wouldn't that be an interesting thing to hold the fact that we're making a difference? See, you know the old keeping up with the Joneses?
Sure.
How about keeping up with the Joneses who got a solar system? That would be fun. When you've been on this island now, how many? 5 years? A little more?
Altogether, 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, 5 years this time, and 3 years in an earlier period.
Well, what have you seen as far as people's usage patterns, and are things going up or down? Are people using
Residential-
more, less?
Residential usage is going up.
Residential
going up,
usage
going
is,
up to 1 to 2, sometimes 3% per year.
and
So over
what
the
about
last
it?
20 years, there's been a gradual increase in residential usage.
You mean in how much people use the
Kilowatt hours per month.
individually? So in other words,
per-
people
per
are getting.
house, per customer.
What does that say to you guys? That says that we're using more power now in this new power age, but we're not figuring. I mean, it's sort of funny, isn't it? Everyone
Well,
talks about conservation, but
you-
that's just talk. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that the new technologies are more energy efficient, but each house is probably installing more technologies, more TV sets, larger freezers, larger dishwashers, larger clothes washers, clothes dryers, and that the overall impact, even though the individual piece of equipment may be more energy efficient, the increase in the number of the equipment, the device, the appliance, that the overall net impact is an increase in people's consumption.
Welcome. Again, this is Tom Jezierney, president of Maui Electric Company. I don't think you have any trouble knowing him. He is president of the Chamber of Commerce for a little longer, right?
A couple more weeks, yes.
A couple more weeks. Not only president of the electric company, but involved in the development here at the Cultural Center, the Maui Philharmonic, Maui Symphony?
Maui Academy of Performing Arts.
Maui Academy of Performing Arts. But here we're talking again, we're continuing our conversation about renewable technology. I gave Tom an opportunity over the weekend to look at some numbers presented by a company, one of the leaders in the solar industry, reviewing photovoltaic systems, both straight photovoltaic and photovoltaic with a thermal hot water additional component.
Right.
And they sent us some new numbers after the weekend. They hadn't addressed a couple of things. Tom, rather than me rambling like has been typical, I'd like you to help me maybe start to see the numbers they sent showing experience in a home, typical energy demand. How did that seem?
It seemed very low because the monthly usage, I believe, and this was if Jason's typical home energy demand planning chart. Okay, that was about 3.7 kilowatt hours, watt-hours per day, kilowatt-hours per day. And when we look at Maui customers, the average usage per month is about 600 kilowatt hours per month, which comes out to be, assuming a 30-day month, you're talking about 20 kilowatt hours a day, as opposed to the less than 4 kilowatt hours a day shown on this chart. So I would not consider this typical or average.
I see. Okay.
Of the Maui resident, of our residential customers.
I guess that's why you were so concerned about the expansion of the power plant, yes?
Well, that's true. And again, if we look at Maui usage compared to mainland usage, Maui uses less because we don't use electricity for heating in most of our homes, whereas the mainland does use electricity for heating. Not that many homes are air conditioned, whereas especially in the Southwest, homes are air conditioned. So that here in Maui, 600 kilowatt hours a month is on the low side compared to many areas on the mainland.
Yeah, I mean, if I see that kind of usage really says everyone should start waking up to ways they might cut down their usage.
Sure.
You know, our as much as anything, our concern for not building of power plants takes our own responsibility, isn't it?
Well, it is, and then the incentive for people to employ their own conservation is there already and has been there for years, simply in that using less electricity per month, per day, will result in a lower bill. At the same time, as I think we mentioned in the earlier part of the tape, is that although we see conservation to some extent, the average usage per customer has gone up over these last 10 to 20 years. Has gone up in say 18 out of the last 20 years. We've seen an increase, small increase from year to year.
Okay. I mean, to me that says a lot. It says, I think you said it, that we have more toys. They may be energy efficient, but boy, we have lots of them.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I know it's always hard with a crystal ball to project rates in the future. Well, average per year rate increase, you have any kind of feeling for that for the last 10 or 20 years here in Maui?
Well, if we look at, let's say today, compared to rates back in the early 80s, specifically 84, our rates are, and thank you for asking this question, our rates are lower now, our rates are lower today than they were back in 1984.
What are they now?
About 13.5 to 14 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
Back in 1984, at the two previous rate cases, they're up at the 14, actually in excess of 14 cents a kilowatt hour for Maui. And this is due, the reason we're low now is due to a combination of lower fuel oil costs plus rate decreases since 1984. Now we're at about 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour right now. Over the next year, we anticipate this going up into the 15s and maybe the low 16 cents per kilowatt hour, given our present rate increase request that should take place through the calendar year 1996.
Does that include the DSM program that you proposed as well, or no?
Not yet. No, the increase that I mentioned is does not include the DSM programs. We expect to see, I'm going to guess, somewhere between zero point 0.2 and zero point 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour on top of the existing rates for the demand side management programs, the energy conservation programs that we'll be submitting to the PUC very shortly.
Okay. So, to you and I, who are users, and you too, I guess, huh?
Absolutely.
No free electricity?
No, no.
Okay. To you and I, the consumer, we know that we potentially have rate increases, and I want to commend you for keeping the rate as low as you have. That's good news to hear that between 84 and 94 and 5, that things are similar. I know the cost of living has gone up, so that really is quite significant to me. But with pending rate increases, and besides rate increases, with people wanting not to use fuel oil. I mean, that was part of the thing there in Maui, as I understand. They really didn't want more expansion of that kind of technology.
True. Well, they didn't want the power plant expanded at that location, although I think there was a recognition, and I don't want to speak for the Maui Community Association, but there was not a dispute regarding the type of the technology, the gas turbine technology, because it's acknowledged to be the most efficient that's available for our size. At the same time, it is fired by diesel oil, and we're hoping that when other fuels become commercially available, whether they're fossil-based or biomass-based or whatever, then we can convert the gas turbines to another type of fuel.
Okay, I wanted to really acknowledge about the rate increases and why I asked that. So we can't really project 10% a year increases. I mean, remember when the energy business was really just beginning in solar years ago, a lot of people got solar systems thinking that the rates would be shooting up based on kind of false predictions by the solar people.
On scarcity of oil.
So we're not talking about that now. I want to talk from a basis of, let's look at it without any kind of pie-in-the-sky projections. Let's be conservative in looking. In fact, I think that's what I saw in these papers from this company, that we're talking about no projection of rate increases at all. Now, if we have a rate increase for expansion of the plant, DSM program, that's one thing. What we're talking about for this has no effect on utility rate, and if anything means that people won't have to pay whatever the given rate is at that time, right?
Well, I think this gives them a chance to look at an alternate to being connected to Maui Electric, and that if they install a PV system or a PV and a thermal system, they can reduce their consumption, lower their bill to us, while at the same time they're paying off a loan or some other financial instrument by which they've installed the PV or PV thermal system.
On the mainland, I had experience where when people put these systems on their homes, the house increased in value. Have you had any experience with that or looking at that here?
I don't have a direct experience. I've heard that's saying that it helps out the resale value of the house.
Okay. I'm only bringing it up because often when I look at numbers, and we're going to look at here in a second, these numbers speak pretty loudly, but the fact that when you buy it, it also increases the value of your home is something that people should think about and consider. Sometimes it isn't always in how much the monthly payment. If you're also putting on a system for $10,000 and your house has increased $10,000
or more,
or more, right? Okay. Let's begin. I'm going to try to see if I can make some simple sense of this and ask. The numbers they sent us before the weekend that I gave to you to review showed a PV system and a PV thermal system.
Right.
Any initial comments? Or
well, the initial comment was that they mentioned that if that they're not currently developing the combined photovoltaic and thermal version. So I looked at the PVT, the photovoltaic and thermal numbers, with some hesitancy, because if it's not available, I'm not sure that it's in the market.
But in fact, that isn't the case. The fact is, what they were trying to reference in the letter was that they would do it if they have a sizable order. They don't want to do it 1 and 2 and 3 at a time.
Okay.
The preferred system is the photovoltaic with the thermal, especially in a residential application, because the savings is so dramatic. I mean, it shortens the payback dramatically. And again, leads me to think that people might see, wow, you know, this is better for us to do it rather than the utility company.
Sure.
But besides that, because that's something that is now different, and
Yeah.
we'll show the numbers. Straight PV. If you were the electric company, I see they left out installation of batteries.
Right. Right.
Anything else that you've noticed that was significant? They were talking about $7,000
Uh-huh.
for a unit that would generate 3.7 kilowatt hours per day. And they're talking about a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan at
Right.
8 or 10% interest.
Right.
And showing that, again, you talk about 14 cents a kilowatt hour,
Yeah.
that about $15.50 saved per month now on a system like this.
Okay.
They didn't talk about tax credits. They didn't really address that in this initial thing. I was noticing, I did analysis on the numbers anyway, and I found that it still looked fairly attractive. It looks attractive to me when I consider that a 15 or 30-year mortgage on new construction, or if someone is refinancing a house, there's...
But I need to ask you a real basic question.
Please do.
Does it reduce your electric bill? Does it reduce your overall energy bill? Does the combination of the energy reduction payment to Maui Electric offset the additional loan payment that you have to make?
Immediately, no. But that's why I brought up the issue of value of the system. And it's a 30-year design life. It's not like it's...
Right.
It's,
Right.
And because if you're doing it commercially, I mean, there's depreciation, a 10% investment tax credit, besides the 35% state Hawaiian tax credit. I mean, that's my thought.
Yeah.
I know that when I look at the hard numbers now for a loan, you're right. When you compare $15.50 with a $55 payment, say, right? But that's today. If we get 2,500 homes or more to say yes on this, this is just PV that I'm looking at. The numbers drop from $55 to $32 a month because the system would only be $4,000 rather than $7,000.
Right.
But I think we should probably
But
jump
again,
to numbers.
I think we have to be careful when we see the word tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't mean Wednesday, May 31st. That means something in the future that needs conditions other than what the manufacturer can impose. It needs a market driving it.
Well, and
Correct?
that's, no, today represents if someone out there says, you know, I like this, I want to get one. They pay us $7,500 or with batteries, let's say $9,000. Tomorrow means, you know, I'm proposing that people make a decision about this and jointly express, yes, they want it before they put out any money.
Okay.
The large enough purchase could bring it tomorrow to Wednesday. It could be Wednesday, or maybe let's call it a year from Wednesday, where we could manufacture these here, and it has other benefits, you know.
Okay.
But that's what this number is. So to me, that's very significant. I'm looking, I just switched sheets. This is PVT. The thermal one is not that much more expensive at all for manufacturing.
Right.
So to me, that seems like the best bet to even consider for
I
a
agree.
homeowner. I wouldn't
agree.
think they should consider it without.
Yeah.
They can consider without the thermal, but this is very dramatically different. Let's go to the current numbers. I really think, let's be accurate based on after they looked at tax credits and such. One, I see here, again, we're going to post some of these up on the screen for your enjoyment. Also, you can contact us and we'll give you copies of these numbers to look at if you'd like. First page, 1 megawatt solar row, and then for 5 of them, if we do 5 1 megawatt programs at the same time.
Okay, now these are...
There's wind power
There's
blowing
wind
our
power,
paper.
yeah.
That's
And
okay.
we can let them go.
Okay.
But now 1 megawatt solar row, that has to do with a commercial use. That's not for residential use, correct?
Right. I was just purposely trying to show both different. You know, I know that it's a while ago, I don't know how same it is, but Molokai, we talked that a megawatt system there wouldn't upset your energy mix on the Molokai, or on Lanai similarly, so that you could still be providing power and it wouldn't, if you will.
Well, a megawatt is on Maui. A megawatt on Maui is very small. A megawatt on Molokai is about 15% of the system. On Lanai would be almost 25% of the system. So on Molokai and Lanai, 1 megawatt would be significant. Maui not so. Molokai and Lanai.
Do they
yes.
have the same kind of peak time?
Both peaks on Molokai and Lanai are in the evening, usually between 6 and 8 p.m.
Okay.
But Molokai basically is a 6 megawatt peaking system, and Molokai is about 4.7, 4.8 megawatts right now.
Okay. Well, I think that's what this was saying. You know, I had talked about a project above the R&T park as a demonstration of a megawatt, or, you know, I have all kinds of grand plans.
Yep.
But the fact is, large-scale purchase and agreement of this could bring these numbers down tremendously. You see that 1 megawatt today, if you will, $6 million. After the tax credits, $3.9 million. Tomorrow, you know, meaning all five at once, we're talking $4 million. That's a big change. So from $384 a watt to $2.50, 6 cents a watt.
What kind of application would be seen with this type of system, PV system? Are we talking residential? Is it commercial? Hotel? Do you
This
know?
is just theory. When I was thinking about Molokai, I was thinking who there has large usage. And I tried and talked to the Kaluakoi, but they're sort of decentralized in an unusual way, they told me. And I haven't had conversation yet with Molokai Ranch, although I'm sure we should. That low-income housing project might be something to look at as
Possibly,
a very interesting one. Also, I don't know if you're aware, Molokai is considered a distressed area by the United States government, and the Department of Commerce has additional funds available even to help on something like this.
And there are weatherization funds. Well, we've looked at, with other agencies. We looked at other DSM programs or other energy savings programs for Molokai, and there are some funds out there for creative energy.
The conclusion that these guys drew, that by the example, was that at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, that a 30-year loan makes sense. Savings, 19. Am I looking right?
Well, you're looking at the
savings.
savings.
I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the PVT. That's the one I wanted to look at.
Okay.
I think straight photovoltaic, what would you say? I mean, to see a utility company do it, is that realistic in the next 10 years, 15, 20 years?
Certainly not in the next 5 years. As far as commercial, it simply isn't commercial. PV is still in demonstration, research and development. Now, certain utilities, and we're one of them, as is the Big Island utility, is looking at what's called dispersed generation, in that if we have a customer way out at the end of the line, rather than spending a lot of bucks, the customer is spending a lot of bucks to connect through use of poles and lines, is for the customer to have in place a PV system, standalone system by which the customer could then be self-powered. And the cost for that could be less than the traditional hookup through the poles and lines that we normally do.
So that's conceivable that you would be doing that.
Yeah, PG&E, West Coast utilities are doing this. The Big Island has a demonstration project in a county park. We're looking at a demonstration project in a county park also. But again, these are very selective and extraordinary conditions by which a PV system could be installed at this point.
And again,
again, these are demonstration, they're not commercial.
So, and you're talking again cost effectively. I like to bring that up because so many people in Maui, some people are looking at the budget and saying, okay, it does cost me a little more now to do solar, but some people have a great deal of discretionary income, large house, places to hide modules.
I got to say, those are the exceptions. When we look at our normal at our typical customer, we're looking at fairly small houses. We're looking at 3-bedroom residential houses, and I don't know that there is a lot of discretionary. I would say that more likely than not, it's the upper end of our customers who have the discretionary income. So I want to be careful.
That's what I'm thinking of, I think.
It's very small, though.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for all of you with discretionary income, thank you. For the rest of us, we want the hard numbers to look right. And when I looked at these numbers, what I saw was, see if you agree with me, that the PVT, the photovoltaic with thermal systems, tomorrow represents, if we have 2,500 homes doing it, by example.
Okay.
Today represents an individual system.
Okay.
Individual system today, no tax credits or anything, $9,800. Tomorrow, $5,900. Okay. Let's look at both of them. How realistic, in your experience, has it been that these numbers are, they look fairly accurate
No, these look very. When we talk something in the range of $4,000 to $6,000, when I've talked to local retailers, they're telling us the cost for a standalone system for a residential house is up in the $20,000 to $25,000 to $30,000 range.
And
So
what kind of kilowatts are they generally trying to deliver?
Usually between 2 and 3 kilowatts, enough for the peak of that house.
Similar to this kind of a sized system?
Similar to this.
So these numbers are...
It's really a combination of photovoltaic, may have wind, may have a little bit of a wind power, but photovoltaic, maybe wind, and certainly batteries because you need a battery storage.
So what you're saying is, in your experience, these numbers are very low.
Yes, yes.
So that's when I said that they were looking to put together something that would be advantageous. It's because they need demonstration, they wanted to create something that would be dramatically lower than market normally for the reason we're talking about.
Okay.
They want it to look good on Maui. Maui, it seems like, to me, like such a wonderful place to try something like this. I hope that what this is showing people out there, I don't know if that's your intention, but it sure is mine. I saw through my experience in the IRP that it's a major chore to think that the utility company is going to bring renewable technology here first. It's going to have to be the private sector to get involved.
It's very, very simply, if the renewable technology is commercial, if it is competitive with other sources of energy that we have now, then the utility would be the leader. At this point, though, for both PV and wind, we don't see them, those technologies, as competitive. At the same time, if a developer comes in with solar or wind or other technologies and wants to establish a purchase contract with us, we will do that. We will buy the power from the developer.
To me, that's very exciting because it says that, to me, that if this is going to happen here, for the people of Maui wanting to do it, they have to take the initiative themselves to do it in the private sector.
Or the government, or some other agency helps out.
But these kind of numbers being low like they are, in other words, here's agencies, if you will, trying to help out by being able to make it a more comfortable and affordable technology. To me, that's very exciting. And also, like when you talk about commercial, if you will, the developers, large developer, if they put it in, my understanding is, and I know I'm correct, that there's a 10% investment tax credit.
I believe so.
Plus a 35% state tax credit.
Right, right.
That
and there might even be federal tax credit under some conditions too.
Well, I understood that 10% was a federal. If there's a 10% state one, wasn't even aware of it.
There may be a tax credit at the federal level for renewable energy also.
Oh, I see.
Used to be. I'm not sure if that's already.
I know it's changed. I know that the 10% ITC is still there. I just checked this morning.
The federal tax credit may have expired, but certainly there's a remaining state tax credit.
So, just by example, if a new development were to go up and, like you say, if it was planned in to have space for these modules so they're not on eyesore in everyone's, way, if you will, that the developer could take the tax credit and market a home with these kind of systems in it. To me, that sounds really attractive to a developer, or could be.
It could be.
Right? If you were drawing conclusions, I know that they drew conclusions. I'm just keeping the name of the company out until I talk later, because endorsement is an issue that we had discussed, and I appreciate that. I'll talk about that later. Distributed or residential units are more cost-effective than centralized units because homes can use the hot water and the heat. Residential units provide electricity and are cost-effective today for all electric homes and cost-effective for some homes using non-electric heating.
We got to remember that very few homes in Hawaii have electric heating. Very few homes in Maui have electric heating. Now, if we're talking hot water heating, certainly almost everybody's got that. If we're talking heating because of temperature, then very few homes have that heating.
I hope so.
I'm not sure that the heating that they talk about here, I'm assuming that it means hot water heating.
I think he's just giving, his expertise in his area. I'm sure heating is an issue. Who would think that in sunny Texas, but anyway. Centralized can be cost-effective if hot water is used. I would think that unless you have some large clients that say, like a hotel or whatever, that the hot water couldn't really be used. How do you transfer that over a great distance would be a challenge, I'd think.
It would probably have to be done with below ground pipes and with insulated pipes. It can be done. It just gets more expensive.
And I guess that's what they're saying.
Mhm.
So again, that's saying an individual might find it valuable, but centralized,
Right.
it's challenging.
I think what they're saying is that if you can't use the hot water output, then the economics don't look good. So that's what I'm reading out of these two or
Yeah.
three paragraphs.
And that residential
Mhm.
is by far the way to go. So that with a special kind of program,
Mhm.
residential might serve you as an electric
Sure,
company to have
sure.
to provide less.
Mhm.
It would provide the customer with
Right.
their own system. God
Uh-huh.
forbid there's a catastrophe, then the power plant in Malaya, we know it won't
How
be
much time
stormed.
do you want to talk about that? That'll take up a whole another hour and a half.
Okay. But it would be nice to be able, if you saw a storm coming, to be able to take your couple of modules down and pack them away, and then
Yeah.
there would be power
Oh, if
afterwards.
we saw a hurricane coming, like Maui Electric saw with the MECO, we would shut down most of the power plant, knowing that the load on the system would decrease rapidly.
I see.
And so what Kauai did was simply take their power plants off a line, and their distribution system got hit real badly. The power plants had minor damage, were able to return to service right afterwards, but since there was no load to serve, there wasn't. The power plants were kept shut down for quite a while.
I have a side question,
that's
but it's
another.
confusing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why did they put in wood poles again after the first time there was 10 years ago, and then the 10 years ago? Now there's a third time they're putting in wooden poles rather than something that might withstand hurricane. Is it because of time? I couldn't figure out why they do it again.
Wood poles are the cheaper. If we at the distribution level, if we talk transmission, the higher voltage, then both Kauai Electric and we are now putting in steel poles.
The ones like I see on the way up to Kula?
Yeah, those new ones are steel poles.
Okay.
And the new line from Malaya to Lahaina next year in 1996, those will be steel poles also. And and the reason for the change there is because of the unique experience that we wanted to upgrade our wind criteria.
I want to ask a funny request, and I don't
Sure.
know. When I see utility poles, if you could try to put them on the mountain side rather than the ocean side. Sometimes I'm driving along the highway and I look up and there's a beautiful view, and somehow I'm framed with a line. I'm thinking, I wonder if they could put that on the other side of the street.
Well, normally,
I imagine you're looking, though.
Normally it is on the mountain side, simply so that it's farther away from the beach and farther away from any wave action. So the exception should be poles on the Mackay side of the road. Normally they should be on the Mauka.
Are you developing any Tesla-like transmission systems where there's no lines at all?
Like radio waves.
Yeah, I think
those are under investigation on the mainland, but we're not doing them right now.
Okay. So I guess the conclusion of these numbers have a lot of digestion to do, but
Sure.
residential customers using photovoltaic with thermal could conceivably find benefit, and that would also
Mhm.
help the electric company reduce its load,
Right. Right.
and thereby help slow down the
Yeah.
need for power plants.
Right. The other thing to remember here is that thermal or solar hot water heating, thermal hot water heating has already been proven successful
Mhm.
in many places in Hawaii. What this system does is add the photovoltaic to it for the direct electricity in addition to hot water. Therefore, theoretically, it should be even more efficient and economical over the long run.
I want to thank you for being here. I'd like to bring Airielle in for a moment.
Sure.
Airielle, why don't you come join us for a second? We have a co-hostess here, Airielle, and I know that she'd like to say goodbye to Tom. Tom has been a very wonderful guest. We want to thank him for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right,
Here's Airielle
Jason.
now.
Airielle, please join us. Yeah.
Here you
Yeah, we'll give Airielle this one.
Give her a chance.
Okay. Tell you what, let's bring this up here, like this.
Isn't that fun?
I'm sorry.
I said I'm hanging here all over the place. The hair, the...
Okay.
Okay.
We need some print time here.
You know, it's... We've got papers.
That's all right. The wind power is taking the. Anyway. Okay, Jason wants to take a couple more photographs here.
Okay. I just brought it out there a little bit. Airielle, I know you joined me in wanting to thank Tom for being here.
Yes, we really are very, very grateful for you, Tom, to come and join us here in this beautiful place. I love looking at Airielle Valley from this spot. It's so magical.
Again,
And-
thank you, Maui Arts and Cultural Center, huh?
Isn't Yes, thank you, Maui Arts and Cultural Center. So, Tom, we want to thank you for your time here and for all of your input on these numbers.
Oh, you're welcome, Airielle.
I'm
My
really
pleasure.
excited about the combination of knowing that we can combine solar with electric and therefore have whatever we need when we need it, you know, and help each other in that regard.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you very much
Okay.
for coming, and we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
I hope so. Thank you. Yeah.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Aloha.
There is a technology available to us through a special arrangement. The Maui Arts and Music Association, myself specifically, have been involved in the renewable energy industry since the early 80s. And I found through a lot of research, through a PV USA, Photovoltaics for Utility Scale Applications program that was put on by the Department of Energy and a number of other companies. In fact, we talked about it, we referenced it in our segment. They tested solar energy systems to see which were the highest rated systems that delivered the most energy, etc. And the top rated system in this country is one based out of Dallas, Texas, a company called Entech, E-N-T-E-C-H. Entech makes solar concentrators. Now I'm going to be showing a little segment so you'll get an idea of what that technology is here in a little bit. So I want you to first look at that, and then I'm going to talk to you about the numbers and what they proposed.
Entech was organized almost 10 years ago by a leveraged buyout from E-Systems, a large defense contractor. Our technology is primarily high concentrating solar photovoltaics, where we take a linear Fresnel lens and magnify the sun from 3 feet wide down to about 1 inch wide. Our best showcase installation is one that we've installed in Austin, Texas, a 300 kilowatt electrical system on the roof of a parking garage at a new 3M research center. It provides electricity not only to 3M, but also it's tied into the grid, so it provides electricity to the citizens of Austin. This one cell in our configuration is equal in electricity over its lifetime to 2 barrels of oil. In this configuration, where we cool with water and then get hot water from that cooling, is equal to 2 additional barrels of oil. Our first commercial product we are now selling in South Africa. It has its beginning with cell wafers that we buy from BP Solar in Madrid. We get them at our plant here at Entech, process them with our high technology, and then ship those components to our partner firm in South Africa. They in turn assemble those in our total modules, take them out to the villages, install them, and for the first time these villages have real electricity.
Photovoltaic cells were first used in space. Satellites required a source of electricity that could last for years without consuming fuel. And photovoltaics provided a perfect solution. Now, photovoltaics is bringing solar electricity to Earth. Photovoltaic cells transform the energy of light directly into electricity by a process so simple that it almost seems magical. When photons of light enter a cell, they collide with atoms, transferring their energy to electrons, which move through the cell and into wires at the surface. Continuous exposure to light creates a continuous flow of electricity.
There are several different photovoltaic systems available today, but they work on the same principle. As sunlight falls on the cells, it is directly converted into direct current, or DC electricity. An inverter then changes the DC electricity into an alternating current, or AC power, that is compatible with most electric systems.
Linear focus concentrators use curved plastic lenses to focus light onto a row of cells. Modules are relatively simple to manufacture, and overall efficiencies are nearly as high as point focus systems. Costs of concentrating systems and advanced thin film modules have the potential to become economically competitive for central station power applications.
One of the most innovative solar collector systems on the market today is located in the heart of the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport in the state of Texas. This versatile system, which provides the airport with both hot water and electricity, was designed and constructed by NTEC Incorporated. The NTEC system is unique in that it utilizes a linear Fresnel lens to concentrate the sun's rays and thus captures a large portion of available solar light energy. This lens is a thin, durable, clear acrylic plastic sheet with tiny facets that efficiently redirect and focus sunlight to a narrow line of solar photovoltaic cells. The cells convert the sunlight into direct current electricity. A fluid-filled cooling tube behind the solar cells extracts the heat generated by the intense sunlight, maintaining the cells at a design temperature. In the Dallas-Fort Worth system, the resulting hot water is used by the nearby AmFac Hotel, while the electricity is used at the airport's central utility plant to power lights and pumping motors. If an energy user needs only electricity and has no use for heat, a radiator is used behind the solar cells and the heat is dissipated into the environment. When only heat energy is needed, the solar cells in the focus of sunlight are replaced by a black-coated tube, in which fluid is heated to a desired temperature and pumped to where heat is needed. NTEC's design makes this collector able to meet a wide variety of energy needs, from very small kilowatt to large megawatt-size applications. Electric motor-driven irrigation systems, electricity and heat for homes, villages, and towns, air conditioning, cogeneration of electricity and heat for industrial or commercial processing, power for electrical utility grids, alternatives for diesel or gasoline-powered electrical generators. NTEC's Fresnel lens collector system has been proven to be one of the most efficient and versatile collectors in the world. It has been tested by the U.S. Department of Energy, the Sandia National Laboratories, and the U.S. Solar Energy Research Institute. The simplicity of its design enables it to be manufactured easily and inexpensively anywhere in the world. NTEC is now establishing licensing arrangements with companies outside the United States. The NTEC Fresnel Lens Solar Collector System, focusing on your energy needs today.
Photovoltaic systems may also be an attractive option for independent power producers who sell some of the electricity they generate to the local utility. In Austin, Texas, a 300-kilowatt system is being tested on the roof of the parking garage at a new 3M company office.
The system is tied to the utility distribution network as well as into the garage here. So during the day, some of the power goes into the lights and the excess goes into the city grid system. The photovoltaic system puts out power in the afternoon or the peak period when we require it the most, and then at night we can sell our off-peak cheap energy to the commercial customer. So we would like to encourage this kind of setup.
This system uses lenses to concentrate the sun, so fewer solar cells are needed. The project was a cooperative effort of the U.S. Department of Energy, the state of Texas, the City of Austin Electric Utility, 3M, and NTEC.
The system produces approximately 300 kilowatts worth of power. It provides power for the lighting load on the parking ramp. The lighting load is approximately 90 kilowatts. The excess power is fed into the utility grid, and the utility then utilizes it for approximately 100 homes within the region. This illustrates the concept of concentrating the light by using a plastic Fresnel lens and concentrating it down to a small photovoltaic cell for the production of electricity.
These 8th graders from Carver Academy in Waco are studying energy at school. And they got a chance to move the classroom to Energy Park, TU Electric's demonstration facility near DFW Airport. Here, TU is focusing on renewable sources of energy. Several rows of solar panels are under construction. Nearby are some giant wind turbines. The students learn how the solar panels act like magnifying glasses to focus the power of the sun.
How does it work? That takes and magnifies all the sunlight from the sun that's coming here and hits down on the solar cell, and then that makes electricity.
The solar cell is the key to the whole process.
Texas is now coming up to speed, and there's a great deal of interest in Texas.
Bob Walters is vice president of NTEC, the Dallas-Fort Worth company which attempts to cut the cost of solar power by using lenses to focus more of the sun's rays on a fewer number of costly solar cells. ENTEC is working on solar deals with TU Electric, Central and Southwest Corporation, and with Pakistan and other countries overseas.
The technologies are there. We've got the technology. That's the frustrating part. But the economics is not right.
If the economics become right through tax breaks or trade agreements, or because people are willing to pay for new, cleaner technology, solar generators could become as popular as satellite dishes.
The fact that we can use photovoltaic solar and be able to concentrate light through a linear Fresnel lens to concentrate the available sunlight and thereby use less PV material makes the cost of these systems potentially less. The fact that we can take the waste heat and use it for heating of water really is a very dynamic and exciting thing. The system itself, this ENTEC brochure you'll see, the system itself is, as the clip showed, a very effective way of generating hot water and a very effective way of generating electricity. The PVUSA program, which we talked about, Tom Jezierney and I, is one that checked out systems, if you will, for you and I to be able to best know which systems were delivering the highest performance and which systems would be most effective in all climates. They had a number of locations where they tested different systems. We here had a low-performing example in the modules that are sitting up there above the Research and Technology Park. What I would like to see everyone recognize is the opportunity that ENTEC has specially created. Now, these numbers that were sent, you can get in touch with us. P.O. Box 356, Suite 208, Paia, Hawaii 96779, Maui Arts and Music Association. And put on there, if you will, on the outside, so we'll get it to the right spot, regarding MECO, M-E-C-O, Maui Electric Company, and our solar opportunity. The reason this works on non-commercial television, the Maui Arts and Music Association, through work from me, has set up a special arrangement with ENTEC, where prices that they're going to be offering in this program are virtually unavailable anywhere in the world. What I told them is this: we have high utility rates here, and if a large enough number of homeowners or central systems through developers or utility company, but very likely new construction and retrofit homeowners, you and I don't own a home, but if I did, I would be, and I imagine I will be someday here soon. But people that own a home, consider the fact that you can raise the value of your home. You can put in a solar energy system. Let me read some numbers to you. Now, you heard Tom talk earlier that these numbers that we were talking about were lower than the systems that he's been hearing about for $20,000 and $25,000 through local installation. And the fact is, it's true. They were delivering 2 to 3 kilowatt hours for $20,000, $25,000. Here we're talking about 3.6 kilowatt hours, and we're talking about, if one of you, individually homeowners, want to do it right now, $9,800 for a system to do the same. That's very low. If we can amass 2,500 or more homeowners that are interested, what we want is a signed contract and agreement that if we get a certain number of systems that you are interested in installing it at this rate, upon a number of signed agreements, 2,500 or more, we will be able to get a price of not $9,800 per system, but $5,900 per system, which is very, very low. Consider that this is a system that has a 30-year design life. Consider also, there's a 35% state of Hawaii tax credit. A tax credit is important for you to understand. That comes off the bottom of your tax bill. If you owe the government $3,000 in tax and you have a $2,800 tax credit, you only owe the government $200. If you have $1,000 of tax bill and you have a $2,800 tax credit, not only do you eliminate your tax bill for this year, but you can go back a number of years and reclaim dollars that were already pledged and paid to the IRS. Or if you don't use them all, you can carry them forward as well. But this is off your tax bill, so that's very significant. It's not just a tax write-off where your bracket is the significant indicator of its value to you. So for example, $9,800 system now, $3,430 tax credit, means the real cost is $6,370 total. Now, if we all do it, which is the plan that I'm proposing to you, $5,900, $2,065 in tax credit means for only $3,800 or $4.46 per watt, meaning we now are virtually competing in cost of fuel oil, and we as individuals can install these systems on our homes, lower the demand for electric, which will slow the need for building of power plants on this island, and won't increase our utility rates in that process. We here on Maui know Maui is a beautiful place, and we also know that if we could use Maui as a global example place for renewable energy technology, it would bring people from all over the world to see this incredibly wonderful thing that's happened. What I would like to do is encourage you to get in touch with me, both individuals and groups who are interested in exploring this more and subsequently soliciting homeowners and groups to better understand this program and getting them to subscribe with us. This is a special opportunity that is not available in any markets in the world anywhere. This is a special program put together through the Maui Arts and Music Association to give Maui an opportunity to do something which would be wonderful for us, which is give us another reason for people to come here besides just vacationing. When we talk about wanting to develop an ecotourism destination, this is a clean and safe way of doing it, and it is also one that will help the long-term development of our island. Consider the fact that if we have 2,500 or more systems, 5,000 or so modules or more, that it makes sense for the manufacturer to assemble the parts here and to manufacture some of the parts here and to have them installed here, because there's such a high demand and excuse me, because the use of these will spread through the islands because of our high utility rate. This can mean an additional industry for Maui that would support tourism, yet diversify our economy and create jobs outside of tourism. I would like you to know that these numbers here are pretty staggering on how cost-effective it is. When Tom Jezierney was talking about the present rate of power, present rate of electricity being 14 cents per kilowatt approximately, with subsequent increases from the demand-side management program, and who knows what the future will bring. Imagine you can put a system on your house. Now, it would take a year, year and a half for this program to really get initiated, but that commitment now will make this all possible. You could have a system on your house, and when the system is paid for, you have an incredible 30-year designed system that is delivering you energy day in and day out, and that's pretty special. The other thing that's really special is that we here on Maui, how can I put this nicely? We here on Maui are blessed, truly blessed, with a beautiful place to live, and we'd like to keep it that way. I don't think that you'll find anyone in our community that would disagree with that. The fact that we can work hand in hand with our electric company and work hand in hand with ourselves and empower ourselves to implement these solutions here is really what it's about. The Maui Arts and Music Association has made an arrangement with NTEC where any monies that we would make through doing this, if we were salespeople and we might make a 3 or 4 or 5% commission, whatever it may be, instead of those dollars coming to me, Jason, we're donating all the money to the Maui Arts and Music Association, our nonprofit organization, for further development of environmental programs and also to supplement the development of art and music programs that will show our art, music, and culture, our healing arts, our visual arts, all over the world, and show the world through a series of products, compact discs, a quarterly program guide and magazine, our art and music and environmental solutions that we are planning and implementing here on Maui for the whole world to see. So it's sort of an integrated package. I am sure that some of you know me, but some of you do not. When I ran last year for political office, the most important thing I was running for was to bring out the facts. And the facts are that with an opportunity like this, we can have technology that will be tomorrow's technology all over the world. Except there's a window of time now with this opportunity where we can bring it here now and have people from all over the world coming here to see this. So we can supplement and strengthen our tourism industry and supplement and strengthen our local economy additionally. That's a pretty terrific combination. Rather than digest these numbers with you over the screen, and I could, I think it would be very effective if you would call 573-3100 or write to us, and we will get back in touch with you just as soon as we can. I am very glad you watched this show. I hope you will encourage others to view this show, and if they own a home, to say yes with us. It's just as easy to say yes as anything. This opportunity, you won't be bound by anything. When the time comes that we do these systems, you will want this deal. This is a very exciting deal. The fact that we can have photovoltaic and thermal generating hot water and electricity and be able to have a price like this is staggering. The fact that this is not technology that is in research and development, this is a system that is available right now, is very exciting. The only reason you don't see it all over right now is the cost per unit has been too high. This is our opportunity, Maui. We look forward to talking to you further about this. Again, you've been really attentive. Thank you for your patience in listening about this very important subject, and we hope that we'll get comments from you, and we look forward to enrolling people in this program and really having people understand that the Maui Arts and Music Association has a purpose, and now we have a very pointed purpose, to raise money and attention to this program that we're doing to help art, music, and the cultures of our islands. When I say art, I really want it clear. We mean visual arts, we mean healing arts, we mean all kinds of arts. We mean music, we mean the cultures of our islands, Hawaiian, all the other cultures of our islands. Boy, I'm tongue twisting today here. We have an opportunity that, I guess I've said that a few times, we won't have again. Let us find this opportunity and let it grow in our hearts and realize that this is something that can't be beat. We have an opportunity to have our cake and eat it too. Thank you again, and this is Jason Schwartz for Jason and Airielle of the Maui Arts and Music Association. Aloha.